Good evening or good afternoon to those of you all who aren't on the East Coast. I want to welcome you all to our live webinar demo of the DTG M2. Just to go over a couple of quick things. We did one of these the other day, and there's a few things that we wanted to hit on first. There were some questions that popped up during the seminar. Speaking of that, at any point, if you have a question, you'll see you have a little icon to allow you to raise your hand. Raise your hand and just type in your questions, and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. It looks like there's around 30 of you here right now, so we may not get through all your questions, but we'll see to it that either your sales rep or myself gets with you at some point in the next couple days to answer those questions if you don't get them answered during the webinar. The DTG M2 is kind of our flagship machine. It's a wide format, one of the largest format direct-to-garment printers on the market, 24 inches wide, prints an area of roughly 17 inches deep. As you can see, we have it loaded up here right now with a large shirt. We can print almost virtually the whole front of that shirt. Kind of the claim to fame of the DTG brand printers. You can't really see it here from the camera, but we have our DTG WIM system here on the back. It's actually generation 2 of our WIMs called the WIMs 2. It actually circulates your white ink and filters it continually during operation when you're printing, and during periods of downtime it's actually going to circulate that ink, keep it from settling, keep you from having issues of head clogs and just poor performance on your white compared to systems that do not have it. We also pressurize our CMYK. You can see on the inside of the machine we actually have a white line that comes in and returns back. One of the big differentiators of the DTG line of printers is going to be our versatility in our print area and the versatility of our Platens. We have it loaded up right now here with a supersized print on it. We also the machine comes standard with a standard adult size Platen for doing your typical type shirts. One of the differences in our system is that you don't pull over top of the Platen. You can actually mount the shirt east, west, or north, south. So you can do really wide, shorter prints or just standard size prints on it. We also offer a youth size Platen, great for doing youth shirts as well as smaller women's shirts. Really good on women's tanks, which tend to be a bit undersized anyway. They fit nicely on this. They wouldn't fit as well on an adult Platen, so you don't have to stretch them to print. We have the dual sleeve Platen, great for doing sweatpant legs, long sleeve shirts. And also I like to use these when you're doing pocket prints or chest prints on the shirt. You literally line the shirt up here, have your chest prints up at the top. You load in 2 of these Platens. You can knock out 4 chest prints at one time with the machine very quickly up near the top of the Platen, which means you're going to print and inject and you're ready to go onto the next set. And we've already got loaded up for the second set of prints we're going to do for you. This would be our dual infant Platen, 2 7.5 by 10s. It allows you to do smaller images. It also will allow you to do maybe a onesie or a small kid's shirt at the same time. You could load that up so you could have 4 on at a time on the printer. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to load up, we're going to pull up a design into our RIP software. I have my assistant here, Bill, bring up the RIP software. He'll be showing you the DTG. It's a RIP Pro version C6, sorry. Our current version is DTG RIP Pro version C6. Basically, it's a Q-driven RIP. As you see, Bill's already loaded it up here, and he's chosen our default setting for the. He's going to choose our default setting for the oversized print. You'll get to see that one in a little bit here. We wanted to tease you with the 4-up. He's going to just simply grab his file. The software will directly support all of your major bitmap formats. Especially is going to support, in this case, a Photoshop file directly, bringing it straight into the RIP. If you work with one of the standard vector programs on the market, like CorelDRAW or something like Illustrator, you're going to be able to take the actual images and drop them straight from the software into the RIP. So you don't have to worry about converting your vector files over and bringing it in. I think the file you're looking for is Queen of Hearts, Bill. You'll be able to bring them straight in without having to worry about an export filter out of the machine to bring it in, I mean the software to bring it in. So if you run CorelDRAW or Illustrator and it's installed on the computer, when you install the RIP software, it's going to add in the Illustrator, it'll add an export filter under your file menu. On Corel, it'll add it to your taskbar.
One second.
Frog on white.
Hey Don, I know that one of the big things about buying the DTG M2 is it comes with the GIMP software. So
Correct. Yeah, one thing to bring up, the new C6 software does have, if you don't have editing software or graphic software on your computer, it comes with a package that is known as GIMP software, which is a open format, open source graphic software that will allow you to actually do a lot of the features. I'd say 80% of the features of Photoshop, that's included with it. On top of that, you're going to have a tool that's going to allow you to supersize graphics files, bitmap files, so you can take a lower res bitmap file, size it up, and get a good print out of it. It also has the ability to edit away backgrounds that are not black. So you could bring in an image, let's say, that had it was a photograph and you had a background to it. And I'm at a loss for the words. What's the name of that
fluid mask?
Fluid mask capability, but that will actually take and trim an image. Let's say this frog, for instance, if there was a background on that frog where it was in the forest, you'd be able to trim it away and leave that frog just by itself. Very powerful tool when you want to take a graphic and not be printing out a rectangle, because that's one of the big things about direct-to-garment. It's kind of an image that fades into the shirt. We're trying to get away from the typical approach of a transfer-looking rectangle type of file. It'll allow you to do that as well. As you see, we've got the file we brought in here to print. You can see on the screen. I assume you all are looking at the software now. That's what I'm looking at. Has the name of the file up there in the corner. It shows it was a frogwhite.psd that Bill's brought in. As you'll see across here, it's going to show us the substrate we're printing onto is a white substrate. We're showing the dimensions of the image is basically 11.1 by, if you scroll over here, you'll be able to see the actual size of it, by 16.5 image. It actually even is, he's pre-processed this image. You can see this is going to use 20.43 cents worth of ink. It's very accurate down to the thousandth of the cent. It calculates, you put in what you're paying for your ink into the software, and he's pre-processed this image. Now he's going to let it go to print. He's ripped it. So if you have a job where you need to bid, and you want to be careful, it's not a big deal on light shirts. If you have to worry about 10 cents on ink on a light shirt, we need to have another conversation about pricing. But when you're starting to do a large order of dark shirts, where you may use a lot of white ink, the difference between a $1.50 print and a $2.25 on a 300-piece order starts to sound like real money. So this allows you to pre-process it and make sure that you're billing your customer right based on the cost of the ink. You'll see here shortly it's going to start bringing up the image and it'll be printing it out onto the shirt. Are there any questions? I'm trying to see if there's any questions popping up about the software or anything up to this point. Okay. Again, if you have any questions at any point that pop up, simply hit that little raise your hand and type in your questions. We'll be able to see them here. We'll try to keep up with them as we go.
Don, one thing that we didn't talk about is the price that you save. How much usually will you spend on a Photoshop or an Illustrator or a CorelDRAW?
Yeah, if you're a startup, you know, a lot of embroiderers find themselves in a situation where they may not have a graphic software for doing this type of work. You know, you go buy CorelDRAW retail, it's $500 or $600, and Illustrator and Photoshop, the suite of those can approach the mid-teens, $1,500, $1,600. They're usually $700, $800 a piece as well. If you don't need all that, and you're dealing with a lot of images that maybe people are sending to you, or you're buying pre-done graphics, having something like GIMP is a really inexpensive way to let you get in the door while you're deciding how sophisticated you want to go with it. Can you use your own rip? I have a question. You can, but it won't work. No. The rips that are used for the direct-to-garment printers do a little bit more than a traditional large format rip. I would assume that's probably what you're talking about, something like Onyx or something like that. What the rips that we have, one of the main applications of our rips is the generation of the white underbase, as well as specialty features which you don't have on other printers, such as the rewind and drawback, so that you are being able to print your white layer right down on top of your color layer. Those are features you don't find in other traditional. Plus, this is a specialty printer, and I don't believe that most of the rip companies are going to go to to the point of developing a rip specifically for a specialty printer like this or any of the other direct-to-garment printers, and when they may only sell 30 or 40 packages a year? It's a good question. It works a lot like some of the rips that you probably traditionally used in the past, however. It's cube-based, as you can see.
Now, Don, are they going to be able to see the quality of the shirt really through the webcam? Or,
Yeah, we can hold up the shirt and show you the print quality. It's kind of hard to tell, when we're using a webcam here, but we can give you a good example. And any of you who are customers of ours or who are interested, contact us for certain, and we'll be glad to drop you a sample in the mail of the sample with the light printed and the dark printed shirt. And by the way, welcome to live TV, guys. We only did about 10 test runs on this, and then panic set in, and we only printed one frog on here. But if you use your imagination, we can actually print that frog full across. In fact, we'll probably, when I'm loading up the dark shirts, maybe we can print up, we'll rotate it, and we'll print you a large frog on a white shirt when we come up.
Don, you've got another question there?
I have another question. Where is it?
Okay.
Ah. Can this machine handle more than 100 shirt orders? That's a good question. It really depends. Sure, can the machine do it? Yes. Is it going to be cost effective? That's a good question. That's for you to determine based on the number of colors and whether it's a light shirt or a dark shirt. And, is it 4-up? Is they smaller images? There's a lot more to it to think about when you go digital than when you do a standard analog type printing like screen printing. But certainly we've had customers do hundreds and hundreds of orders. You may have variable data. I have one customer who actually every year prints out T-shirts that are, every one of them is custom. There's about 1,500 of them. And the T-shirt actually has it used to be a barcode, now they use a QR code that they put onto it. And your T-shirt is admission into the event, and it's also your raffle ticket. So everywhere you go, they shoot the shirt. So absolutely you can. Light colored shirts, an image like this, you got 25, 30 cents worth of ink on it. You may find out that it's cheaper to print these than it is to actually to do your film to develop for screen printing if it's a 6 or 7 color job. Any other questions? That's quite a few of them here. Do you need films for the artwork? No, absolutely not. Yeah, I take it, Santiago, that you're a screen printer. You do not. In fact, this is one of the benefits of direct-to-garment over screen printing is you don't have to think within the screen, which means when you're designing your artwork, you don't have to worry about, do I have a 4-color press, a 6-color press, an 8-color press? Do I have to calculate in $10, $15 per color to set up and do these jobs? With direct-to-garment, it's going to allow your artist to be liberated and freed up from having to think about the colors that they're doing when they're actually printing the job. So we pull that off there, we can show. Other questions there? I see a couple people asking about audio. Does everybody have good audio? We have one of our employees is listening in another room, actually said that the audio sounds good now. Here's an example, good example of a good direct-to-garment print. Get my images back there. See, it looks a lot like a live frog. Pretty easy to load and unload. As you can see, the Platens I showed you earlier, they're indexed on the back end of the Platen, here in the back end of the Platen to load into the machine, and here on the front we have holes that are drilled and also index it to the front. Makes it easy to load and unload. Another big benefit of the DTG brand printers, the Platens are not fixed and attached to the machine. So for instance, like you saw when I showed you a little earlier on the dual youth size, infant size Platens, you can have those set up so that they're preloaded. The machine stops, I pull these off, I throw in the next two, and they're ready to go. That allows me to address the shirts after the machine starts printing. Because if the machine's not making noise, you're not making any money. For instance, I want to take these Platens off right now. I'm going to go ahead and load up the 4-up black, which Bill gave you a little bit of a preview of initially with the setup. I've got 4 of these are pre-treated black shirts, 4 smaller pre-treated black shirts. I'm going to slip these into the machine. See how they pop in and I index them on the front. Do the second set. Go ahead and load it up. Your question? How many locations can you do?
In the shirt.
You mean specifically in the shirt? It really doesn't matter. The challenge you start to run into is as you start doing it, every time that you do a separate print, think of it more like embroidery than screen printing. You're going to have to rehoop the shirt, put it on the form, and you're going to have to heat press it each time. Now, you can get around, for instance, like these shirts we're doing right now. If I was doing a large run of these shirts, I would actually take a piece of Nomax, which is a foam type material, put it down on my heat press, cut it in half so I could separate. I would fold the shirts in half, top and bottom on the press, so I'm actually pressing 2 shirts at a time, optimizing my processing. But we've had customers who've done both sleeves, fronts and backs on shirts. I've had people take shirts and turn them sideways and do a wrap around the side if they're looking for an impact, like a fashion type of shirt. I think I answered that question about the sleeves as well.
So is the magic here that you can print 4 shirts at a time with no other DTG printer can basically do, or is it the direction, or like what's the most unique feature that we're
wow, I mean, yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. Mark was asking about the different positions. I mean, it's nice to show doing 4 up at a time of the same. That's more realistic for most people. It's also nice to be able to mix and match together. You know, I've done situations where you might do shirts for a rec soccer team, where you may have 2 or 3 shirts, colored shirts for the girls. You put their names and numbers on it, so you just put different colored shirts on each of the Platen, so you're printing the same graphic on them. There's a lot of applications, but the beauty of being able to do them all at once is secondary to that is the fact that I can load up 4 smaller shirts, 2 standard size shirts on this machine and walk away from it and go do something else, get the next set of shirts ready, take a phone call from a customer, check on my embroidery machine, you know, whatever it is, grab a bite to eat. It's multiple things that I can do. As you guys can tell, I don't miss a lot of meals, so I do that a lot more frequently than most. But it allows you a lower interface time with your shirts than one-off printers in the marketplace would have. And this has been an evolution with DTG. Our earliest machines printed 1 shirt at a time. Since the Viper's inception back in 2009, all of our machines now are gearing towards multiple shirt printing because we understand it's not just how fast can you get 1 shirt done, it's how little time do you have to dedicate to being in front of the machine while that's running. I can have the next 4 shirts like we're getting ready to print now loaded up and ready to go. As soon as it's done, bang, bang, I touch the machine twice and I get 8 shirts done. If I'm working with a machine that prints 1 shirt at a time, to get those 8 shirts done, I'm talking about touching the machine literally at least 16 times, front end, back end on each one of the shirts. Okay, we're going to pull up, Bill's going to bring up the graphics now. As you can see, we have our software. He's going to, sorry if you guys can't see what we see here. Bill's having to move all kinds of stuff off of the front of the rip software so he can see it. He's going to bring in, as you see the top, up here at the top, basically we break out our rip cues into 4 categories: color shirts, black shirts, white ink only, and white shirts. Under each of those categories, we're going to have a number of different type of settings. Right now, he's bringing into the cue that's for M series color graphics best. He's going to bring in, he's telling it to put same graphic on all 4 Platens. You have the option to put 4 different graphics onto the Platens. You know, you could, people are going to ask, can you mix black shirts and color shirts at the same time? You can. It's about the only thing that doesn't make sense is to mix a shirt without white ink with a shirt with white ink. It just, you're not gaining anything because it's going to take as long as it takes to print the black shirt.
Print area.
The print area that he's working with right now on these are 7 by 10s. The image he's actually getting ready to print, I think when we looked at this the other day, it's about 6 by 6.5 or so. It's roughly a square size butterfly on this image. And you see the job cost on this job is only 42 cents. It's a fairly inexpensive black shirt with white ink on it. You have the machine. I don't know if you all can hear that here, but when the printer starts to print, you start to hear a whining sound. Okay? That whining sound is actually the WIMS motors that kick on. Our WIMS are motors that circulate the white ink during operation like this. So the whole time it's printing, it's not only circulating ink and it's filtering that ink, but it also keeps those lines completely pressurized consistently with a peristaltic pump that pumps the ink around. When you're not using the printer, it's going to have some default settings which you can adjust yourself so that in times of inactivity it will come on, it will stir the ink, it will circulate the ink, and it will filter the ink. for a given minute period of time. Typically we're around 2 to 2.5 hours for about 20 or 30 minutes or so that's actually going to cycle that. So you don't have to worry about settling of the ink. Alright, I'm looking to see some questions. Wow, thanks Scott Levine, I appreciate the comment. Somebody's asking about other types of garments. Talking about load sweatshirts and things like that, for example. Sweatshirt's not a problem because we have a fair amount of play. The bed actually goes up and down. We can address about the top 1 inch of the printing area. The thicker items, like a sweatshirt, you would be able to load. And I'll show you here on the side. As you can see, this material, this tuck lock material actually stretches and gives a little bit. If you're doing sweatshirts, it'll allow you to tuck in. You're probably going to end up replacing this material a little bit more frequently if you're doing a heavier item. Either that or you can actually lower it down and get a little bit more gap, but absolutely you can do it. If you're doing a hooded sweatshirt, we do have a hoodie that has a zipper on it. We do have a special order Platen that is a hybrid of this, which is our youth Platen, that actually has a stripe down the middle where there's a sticky tape so you actually can press down so that the zipper goes into that. The print size for the 4 shirts, I think I addressed that. Each one of those shirts is, the designs is roughly 6.5 inches. The Platens are 7.5 by 10 each. Now now if I were going to do the whole print area, like the large frog that we tried to do initially, that print area of the machine is 24 inches by 16.5. Again, you don't want to think inside the box like a lot of our competitors do. That doesn't mean that I can only print 24 inch wide by 16.5 tall. I can turn the shirt on there any way I want to. When you take a machine that has a load-on Platen that's very similar to a screen print Platen, not to mention any names, Anna, Jet, and Brother, what you're going to find is that those printers, you're going to only load in for front prints and back prints because you're literally splitting the shirt and pulling it on like you do with Platen. We lay both layers of the shirt on top of this, and I'll show you after we get done with these prints so I can sit on top of it, do a real quick load of a shirt onto a Platen to see how it loads up.
And those other printers also will only do 1 shirt at a time no matter what you do to it.
Let's see, it seems more questions. Somebody said, are there default settings for ink disbursement? I'm going to make an assumption about what your question means, and if I'm wrong, just type back in. Yes, these cues that we've selected, like the cue that Bill selected here earlier, the cue, in fact, if you want to swap off so that Bill can go back and you can see the screen, right? The cue here, and you'll see where it says M Series Color Graphics Best. That is a actual cue. Think of it as something that you would do for like a workflow at your shop. You drop it into there, it's going to process certain things a certain way. Default amount of white ink, certain saturation levels of colors, certain things like, let's say you wanted to do a white highlight. We don't find we need to do that as much anymore as we used to, but if I wanted to do a white highlight within it, I could. Here you see the white shirt setting. We have multiple settings for those. Those are all hardwired settings. You can add to those yourself as well. But the ones that we use, we don't see customers for the most part tweaking, and we're going to have anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 settings under black shirts, color shirts. White ink only is not as much because it's really for only printing for like lettering and word designs on dark shirts with just white ink.
So I have another question, Bob. While these print, you mentioned one time about not having to have a standard sized image. So you can do a small image for a small t-shirt and a large image on a large t-shirt, the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of direct-to-garment. That, you know, this is not just us touting the DTG. A huge part of direct-to-garment, because I see some of y'all are screen printers, a huge part about direct-to-garment is the fact that you can tailor the size of your graphic to the shirt. I call it the 8-10-12 principle. You know, if you've got a series of shirts that range from a women's small up to a men's extra large, you know, the smallest shirts are going to get an 8-inch wide graphic. You go up into the medium size ranges up to the larger women's shirts, you might put a 10-inch graphic, and you start to get into the shirts like I would wear, the 2XLs and the XLs, you may put a 12-inch graphic on it. Huge benefit of direct-to-garment that you can, as screen printers, is a way that you can sell this to your customer so that the graphics fit. And if you're a screen printer, you're doing a large order for a customer, you can take those outside ranges, maybe the 8-inch and the 12-inch graphics, and directed garment print those and screen print the 10s as well. So there's several questions that are starting to pop up here about clogging, questions about not using the machine. If you're not on a regular basis going to be using the machine, don't buy one. I know you didn't expect to hear that on a sales thing, but if you're not using the machine for a few days, 4 or 5 days, we just had a long weekend for the 4th of July, you don't have to worry about it. The WIM circulation system is going to take care of the colors. You're fine. Certainly, when you are going to be gone for an extended period of time, you want to reduce that down. I don't mean shorten your vacation. What I mean is, if you're leaving on a Wednesday and you're not coming back until Monday, Wednesday night, right before you leave, do all of your routine maintenance, do a couple of head cleanings, and then leave the machine. It'll be fine. When you come in on Monday morning, before you start jumping on all those faxed in orders and emailed orders from your customers and putting out fires that have happened while you're gone, fire the machine up, do a couple of head cleanings. Now I've just reduced that down by almost a day over you doing it midday on Wednesday and wait until after lunch on Monday. That'll help. Certainly you can leave the machine. We are the worst at it. You know, it's a do as we say, not as we do. Our machine sometimes during the holidays, Thanksgiving, things like that, our machines may sit a week and not get used. Not something you want to recommend to do. If you're going to go extended periods of time, use those as the times that you want to go ahead and flush the lines on the machine, put in some flushing solution into the white ink lines, and do the same thing as you would if you had ink in it, and just leave it on and let it circulate that while you're gone.
You want to talk about what just happened with the shirts putting out white?
Yeah, what happened, we kind of missed it while I got talking. As you saw, the machine just ejected out. It had, all 4 of the shirts had their white. It's now coming back. It's putting the color layer on top of it. Question about using a tunnel dryer. At this point, the inks, the chemistry is not designed for tunnel drying, and tunnel dryers are not designed to dry direct-to-garment inks. There is a company that is working on it right now that is developing one. It's not an inexpensive dryer, and it actually has a sensor that goes through with the shirts to keep a nice flat line of temperature. Your traditional belt dryer is going to spike. So the answer is, at this point, it's not recommended. Do you happen to know if there's a heat press large enough to accommodate the maximum print size? There is. The George Knight makes a 20 by 25. I'd have to check pricing. About $1,000 or so more than their standard 16 by 20. Absolutely. And if you want to get crazy and go to an M4, which will do a 24 by 47, they actually have some supersized presses that about the same price as a small house, but they do make presses that will go up to 48 by 60, I think. But you know, you're starting to talk about presses getting in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. But certainly you can get into a standard press from George Knight for mid to like $2,300, $2,500 range that will do the 20 by 25.
What is a standard heat press that most people will use to cure DTG t-shirts from?
Yeah, the most common heat press is a 16 by 20 auto release. You want auto release because the cure time is 2 to 3 minutes. You don't want to wait around for that, so you want it when it's done to pop open. That would be the most common size that's sold. We use the George Knights ourselves. I've been in this industry for about 24 years, been selling their presses that long. Great customer service, but more importantly, they don't burn your knuckles. The George Knights have a long fulcrum, they open up wide, and you'll see in most of our videos that we have on our website, you'll see that we're using the George Knight. You'll see what a long fulcrum, so you don't have to worry about burning your knuckles. Bill and I have had our experience with that at trade shows enough when we drifted away from the George Knights when you hit those. There's about a 6-inch clearance with those.
And what's the price on that?
They're about $1,350. Somebody here is asking that they have a small embroidery business, but sometimes customers ask for screen printing, but order more than 100 shirts. So do you think this is worth buying this machine? Absolutely. I got to feed my family. No. You need to look at the number of colors in your jobs and the value of you letting that out of your control. That's really what it's about for a screen printer, an embroiderer who's looking to bring this in. Yes, this is not going to be the solution to do every type of printing, but as an embroiderer, you have to ask yourself, why are you looking at the equipment? Are you frustrated with your screen printer because it doesn't take top priority when you take your jobs in, or heaven forbid, the next time you go to get an order from the guy's not ordering you, he's ordering direct from the screen printer. That's more the value to it, is the control, keeping it in-house. It is an emergency to you, it is an urgency to you, it's not necessarily to the guy outside. If it's a 4-color job, you may be $100 into screen. You do this, $100 buys an awful lot of ink. And as an embroiderer, think of this like another embroidery machine. Another place to stop in your cycle between your machines, the phone, all the other things you're doing, and it's producing output just like an embroidery machine would. What about a pretreatment machine? Somebody's asking. You can use a pretreatment machine for certain. As we indicated, we pre-treat the shirts so that when we're doing the white ink, so it sits on top. A pretreatment machine will allow you to effectively, consistently pre-treat your shirts. It'll allow you to do your pre-treatment in a much more close proximity to the printer. It'll allow you, if you've got a storefront or something like that, where you're going to have customers coming and going, or carpeting in the room where you're printing, it'll allow you to run this without having to worry about the overspray that's associated with the hand sprayer. There's two types of people who buy pre-treatment machines and don't understand why anybody would ever do it by hand, and people who learn how to do it by hand and do it all by hand and wonder why anybody would spend money on a pre-treatment machine. It really depends on your operation. Certainly if you have a lot of employees that you're going to be cycling through on it, pre-treatment machine is going to level out that learning curve. Question here is, does the RIP program estimate the amount of ink that we use per graphic? Do you have an ROI available to assist in price estimating? We certainly do on our web page have that. I have an Excel file I can send you that one of our customers uses for how he prices. The RIP software, Bill can show you. We're going to go back to the RIP here real quick so you're not going to see the machine printing. The RIP software, if we pull up the last job, it'll show you the cost of ink for this 4-up job was 42 cents. Yeah, that's for all those images. So there's a very light amount of white coverage on this. So it will estimate that, and you don't have to print. You do that. As you saw, Bill had already processed this image, and what had happened is, I apologize, I had 41 cents per image on this one, not the total. I forgot we were printing 4-up. So it's 42 cents per shirt on this image, and you actually, if you want to, we can actually pull it down and show you how much is white, how much is each of the colors. But this will allow you to process that, determine when you go to pricing so you're not undercharging for dark shirts. Again, as I said, on light colored shirts, not a big deal. 100% cotton only, not necessarily, John, thanks for that question. You certainly can do poly blends. On light colored shirts, you can go all the way out to 100% poly. We sell a poly pre-treatment that will allow you to pre-treat and print on polys. The dark shirts, white ink printing, for the most part, cotton, think cotton. It doesn't have to be 100%, but when you start to get beyond about 80-20, you really just need to do your own experimentation. The problem isn't so much the washability as much as it is the fact that polyester garments tend to gas out when they're heat pressed. So you'll print on a beautiful, and if you want to learn, print on red, because it exaggerates it the most. You could take this image, and I've printed this on a red 100% polyester shirt. It would look pretty good right now. As soon as I press it, everything in this shirt is going to tend towards pink, because as the shirt is heated up, the actual dyes in the shirt are going to migrate into the inks.
So Don, we saw the ink for each shirt was about 41 cents.
Mm-hmm.
How much is a wholesale black t-shirt like that about as far as cost goes?
About $100. Typically a shirt like this, if you were doing wholesale work, this would be anywhere from a $7.50 to $9 shirt wholesale.
That's
where you're selling groups of them, but 24, 48 of these to somebody who's coming into your shop. Now, if I was selling these retail, these are $15, $18 shirts if they're just a standard design. However, this is where the shift becomes. If this is my clothing line, if this is my logo that I print, or if this is some specialty application, a niche marketplace, right? Now you start to see the value of those climb up. But even in a wholesale capacity, this is the type of shirt that you ought to be able to make $4 to $5 on in a wholesale capacity, selling it to somebody who is going to resell it, like selling it to a school or selling it to a bar who's going to resell the shirt.
And what's the cost when the customers buy those shirts? What are they paying typically? It's 42 cents for the ink. Is it $2 for the shirt? Is it $10 for the shirt when they buy it to print on?
If you aren't already buying blanks, I know a lot of you are already apparel decorators. The t-shirt costs for direct-to-garment printing are going to vary. The low-end shirts, which you would only do for like throwaway events, cancer walks, things like that, where they're going to wear them once or twice. Those type of shirts cost you, for a white shirt, $1.50 for a blank. You get into higher quality, light colored shirts, maybe the Bellas, the American Apparel, things like that. They might go to $2.50 to $3 for light shirts. You get into your dark shirts, add a dollar or two to them. But unless you're going to some exotics like bamboo or hemp, your typical direct-to-garment printable shirt is going to, the blanks cost you $1.50 to $4 is a fair range. See, 4 shirts are good. To do those 4 shirts, it looks like it took. No, I don't think that the time was as long as it seemed like. We've only those probably took about 9 minutes or so to do those 4 shirts. And understand, you don't have to watch it print. You don't. You load that up, you walk away. Literally, my interface time with these 4 shirts is going to be under a minute. If you were to screen print those, every one of those shirts, you would have a minute or 2 of your time committed to and into it.
At the end, what we can do is we can send them links to both our ROI page and our speed test.
Correct. Yeah, we'll send it. And anybody who is doing this that would like to request some samples sent out to you, contact us, and we'll just say, hey, I was in the webinar. We're printing up. We anticipated a fairly large turnout for this, which we have had, and we're going to forward out to you guys samples as well, so you can see them as well. Other questions out there? You know, one of the things that I think that separates the DTG brand and ColDesi in specific from the other guys in this industry is the family of people that work here, long-term employees. A lot of the people in this company have been here 6, 7, 8 years. The average employee in this building has been in the industry for 10+ years, and we understand apparel decoration. It's not just about selling a widget. Most of our competitors you're dealing with, you got one-trick ponies that sell one machine only. They don't understand the whole marketplace. When you call in here, you're going to talk to a technician who himself maybe has a screen printer, who's been doing this his whole life. Bill, who you hear me talking to off screen, Bill has been in this industry for, I don't even know, what, 20+ years?
1991.
91, same year that I got into the industry. So big difference when you're partnering with a company that people are concerned about your business. They understand the other aspects. You may be on the phone with Bill talking about your DTG printer, and he could answer a question for you about embroidery. I wouldn't necessarily say call him for that, but we understand the business as a whole. Very committed group of individuals in support. You get your tech support live on phone. We have web-based support. We have what I call our acronym site that's full of FAQs, PDFs, and WAVs. We have the ability for you to input your own tech support, calls right online. We're very proactive. As you can see, the webinars are another example. You're going to see more of this type of stuff from us as well as we go on in the future. Somebody says, other than the ISS shows, where can someone else see these machines in person? We have an office here, obviously, in Tampa. We also have an office in Ocean, New Jersey, which is about an hour and 40 minutes or so from New York City. We will be doing, for the most part, the shows that we do are going to be the ISS. I see that Santiago is asking about shows. We will be at the IS show in Long Beach in January, but as far as terms of offices, that's why we're going to this. The marketplace is moving towards digital, and we're going to be doing more of these type of demos. If somebody wants to see a specific demonstration of your artwork printed out on our printer, get with one of us. We'll set up, we'll do a Skype type, or we'll do a quick, here's your artwork. We'll load up your artwork, we'll print it, we'll video it, and we'll put it up on YouTube for you on a private YouTube page for you to be able to view it, and then we'll actually put that right in an envelope here while you're watching. We'll mail that to you. Any other questions? How do you make an appointment with the New Jersey office? If you've already got one of your sales rep here, contact your sales rep, and they'll get with John, who's our trainer up there, who's one of the people we were talking about. John's been here for 15 years. And we'll set up a time for you to go in and see John up there. If you aren't already working with a sales rep, you can contact the office here and just say, hey, put me in touch with one of the salespeople, and they'll hook you up with one of our sales professionals who works with the DTG products. Okay, so how long has this brand been around? People who haven't heard of DTG probably have not been following this industry. The DTG brand is actually the longest continuous brand on the marketplace, other than Kornit. Kornit was the only other machine that was actually shipping when we first started shipping the DTG brand. Brother came out very close about the time that we did. The only other machine that was on the market at that when we came into it was the Fast T-Jet, which is they're now defunct, and Mamaki, which is basically a non-player in this market, having created the machine in about 5 or 6 years. Why they haven't heard of us, I don't know. We are definitely one of the most established of the brands, definitely worldwide.
That's why we're called DTG.
DTG, yep. You don't get the industry named after you if you weren't around for quite a while. Any other questions? Okay, one last thing I want to show you because I didn't do this last show. People were asking, how do I load the shirt onto the Platens? We're going to load one up here real quick for you. You see this doesn't involve me opening the shirt up at all. I'm going to look for the, obviously I want to put it on the front of this shirt. Simply you're going to lay it out on the Platen, and if you want to get carried away with it, we've had customers who have used laser alignment tools to line up as well. But as with anything, if you're an embroiderer, screen printer, you know that after a bit of time, it just comes second nature where you want to mount it. By the way, I'm neither an embroiderer or a screen printer, so second nature not. I'm tucking it in simply. I'm not really stretching the shirt. I'm just tucking it into the tuck lock material, folding it under, and I'm ready to go. That's how you load the shirt up. If I wanted to load the shirt, print on the back, I would roll it over to the back, or, again, another benefit, I can turn it this way and take advantage of the long side of the Platen. If I want an off-size set print, I can turn it sideways on it. And even if I wanted to, I could take the shirt, press it, so that I'm now able to print on the side if I wanted to do a wraparound type of print. What type of materials can we print on? Think textiles, all right? Outside of the t-shirt, sweatshirt, golf towel type of mentality, probably the most common and the most viable is printing on pre-stretched art canvas, which you can buy at places like Michael's. You can take advantage of, Michael's has sales every other weekend, buy one, get one free, so you can print a nice 16 by 20 canvas up and maybe got $5 or $6 into it, sell for $70, $80. Very, very huge. I actually have customers that specifically, that's their main marketplace. Koozies, things like that. The key is when you're printing on an item that's not as traditional t-shirt or something like that, you got to be smarter than the item you're printing on. So you have to take into account where you're positioning it on here. With the adjustability of the height, that does give you a lot of room to work with. Any additional questions? Polyester, I think we addressed earlier, sir. We do have a pre-treatment for light colored polys. Currently, dark polys is not a reality for this industry as a whole. Working on it, though. If there aren't any other questions, I guess we'll start to sign off here. We do appreciate the fact that everybody was here. Don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll be glad to get a rep in touch with you, help you out and answer your questions in a little bit more depth, get out some samples to you, and be sure to tell other people about us and keep your eye open for additional webinars we'll be doing on these products as well as our embroidery, rhinestone, and spangle products.